tuned in to The Andrew Lawton Show.
We have Chris Sims joining us, our Monday commentator, the Alberta director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Chris, you've seen, and you and I have been talking about this for weeks now, Canadians are not on board with this. What do you make of this call to action to actually go and protest MP offices that Pierre was giving his supporters yesterday?
I think it's really smart, and it's, spoiler alert, it's something that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation has been encouraging now for many years. Old photos of our magazines include us, planting pig-shaped lawn signs on the front of Parliament Hill. So we're all for a peaceful demonstration. In fact, we just finished protesting a couple of months ago in front of Liberal members of Parliament constituency offices in chicken suits. Because, as of course you remember, it was the Atlantic Caucus of the Liberal Party who had the spine, who weren't chickens and who stood up for their constituents, and they got an exemption for the carbon tax on their home heating bills for 3 years. Curious amount of years there to put them past the next election. But it was only for Atlantic Canadians because they're basically the only ones who use home heating oil. And it was just nothing but crickets. We couldn't hear anything from the rest of the Liberal caucus across the rest of the country. So we think it's a really great idea for Mr. Poilievre to call to action, to email, to phone, to protest peacefully outside of constituency offices, because this is what makes them move, right? Every now and then, I know you've covered this on Parliament Hill yourself, Andrew, everything seems like it's going to stay the same until it suddenly doesn't, right? Everything kind of breaks loose at once. I remember when I was at the CTV Bureau many eons ago, when then Finance Minister Paul Martin hesitated slightly in giving his support out loud verbally for Prime Minister Chrétien during a press conference. And that's all it took. All hell broke loose. And then there was a leadership race and everything kind of fell into place. So this is why we're urging and agreeing that all Canadians who oppose the carbon tax should definitely protest outside of the offices peacefully. Don't give the anti-carbon tax movement a bad name, please. And send in letters and emails. If I can, though, I'd like to tack a little rider to that bill.
Okay.
Because something else is happening on April 1st, and that is MP pay raises. They're automatically getting a big pay hike. So this means that the Prime Minister, I think, is going to be making over $400,000-ish. A backbench member of Parliament is going to be making around $200,000. And it's a huge pay hike. We're talking thousands of dollars per year. That's also happening April 1st. And that's, of course, people joke and call it April Fools. It's, of course, because it's the start of the fiscal year. That's why all these things change on April 1st. But I will put a bug in Pierre Poilievre's ear. We need some leadership from members of Parliament in the House of Commons to oppose these MP pay hikes. Prime Minister Stephen Harper froze MP pay hikes, and we think it's really important to encourage other MPs, in particular the opposition MPs, to speak out against MP pay hikes right now.
Yeah, I would say that it's very valid. And I want to dig into that and also talk about the Governor General in a moment. But just going back to the carbon tax increase here for a moment, Chris, there was a poll that came out. Now, obviously polling you have to take with, 3,000 grains of salt here. But Main Street poll, 46% support for the Conservatives, 25% Liberal, 15% NDP. MPs are people. It pains me to say that because a lot of the time they don't act like it, but MPs are people. And a lot of them are, despite however partisan and ideological they are, they're very, very concerned about their future right now. And if you're a Liberal member of Parliament in a Toronto riding, let's say, you're in Mississauga, you're in Whitby, you're Newmarket, whatever, that these numbers are bad news for you. So when you have people that are outside your office saying, hey, we can't afford to live right now, stand up and do the right thing. I do think that some Liberal MPs' insecurity about their seats may actually allow for some action here. That the caveat is that Justin Trudeau has done a very good job in the last 8 years of quelling any dissent.
I think you're bang on there. And it takes years of observation to notice this. And you're right. I can't remember the last time I saw the Conservatives at over 40%. Like you said, polls are polls. There's always give and take, but that is a huge number. And so polls like that make other MPs feel like dinosaurs 65 million years ago, and they've looked in the sky and here comes the asteroid. That's what those feel like. And it ripples through the office on Parliament Hill. People start phoning the constituents saying, hey, is anybody coming in to meet with the MP over the break week? Anything like that happening? That's what gets them really nervous. And to your point, I think that polls like this really matter. And I think it's things like the carbon tax that really matter. So keep in mind that we've got the carbon tax that he's hiking up that, of course, makes our food more expensive because it increases the cost for farmers. It increases the cost for shipping. Just imagine diesel fuel, which is the lifeblood of our economy. It moves everything we eat and use, is now going to have 21 cents per liter tacked onto it. If you take a look underneath a trucker's door, they've got those huge cylindrical tanks. Those things hold more than 1,000 liters. Do the math, times 21 cents. Like, this is a huge cost for people, and it trickles down and ripples down through the rest of the economy. And here we have people, to your point, who are literally saying we can't afford the basics of life. So energy, heat, shelter, and food. Like, wakey, folks. This is a participation sport, politics, and these MPs are going to have to respond to this. So I think you're right, Andrew. I think that they could break rank on this issue.
Yeah, and when you mentioned 40%, I should just give a bit of context here. Stephen Harper won his majority in 2011, and it was a pretty strong, decisive majority. That was 39.62% of the vote. So that majority was, I mean, yeah, if you round it up, it's at 40, but was less than 40% in absolute votes. So when you have conservative polling at 46%, we're getting like Brian Mulroney, John Diefenbaker, supermajority territory there, depending on the distribution of it. But you mentioned MP pay raises going up. Governor General also, that quintessential, incredibly important, valuable, relevant figure in Canada. She's getting a raise.
Yes. And I want to be very clear. This isn't about the person. This is about the office. All that being understood. Now, I think I might be alone at the Taxpayers Federation. I don't want to tell tales out of school, but I think I'm one of the only quasi-monarchists among us. And that is only because in the same way that Winston Churchill basically said, democracy, it's ugly, but it's the best system we've got, better than all the others. Very similar here because we have a constitutional monarchy. This is how things work in Canada. I understand, folks, who are monarchists. I understand the role. Okay. The Governor General is His Majesty the King's representative in Canada. In order to pass law, we need this royal literal stamp of approval. But we should not have to be paying through the nose like this. A Governor General literally lives in an all expenses paid mansion. They have a team of housekeepers, drivers, and cooks. The place is just opulent. And now the Governor General, just because they exist, they're getting an $11,000 pay hike this year. Again, so this is well over $300,000 now per year that this position is now paid. It's a huge waste of money. This is, yes, it's important legally to get our laws passed, but it's largely ceremonial. This does not require, massive law degrees and a ton of heavy lifting and, wise, sober second thought. And so this is why we're encouraging people to, and I don't know why my camera just went out on you again, Andrew.
I'm blaming Bill C-11. I don't know if we can, but there we go.
I'm not kidding. This only happens on your show and one other. And it ain't on CTV. I'll put it that way. This is so strange.
But the thing, when you mention the quality of life, though, Chris, they're living like monarchs themselves, but they're career bureaucrats and washed-up journalists. I mean, that's the bizarre part, is that, she was a diplomat. I mean, very well decorated. Julie Payette was an astronaut. Michael Jean was a journalist. But, I mean, all these people, they're just average, ordinary people that all of a sudden get to live a royal life. That's the part that I find offensive, is that they want to do all the ceremony, and we're paying for it. And look, the issue that the CTF has been quite strong on in this regard is the lifetime of payouts, which often we don't realize. I mean, Adrienne Clarkson is still cashing checks worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for all this administrative support. Meanwhile, she's making money as a public speaker for, being a former governor general, but we're still supporting that.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get that gig, you're rolling in it for life, courtesy of the taxpayer. And to your point, we understand this is administrative. Look at the provincial levels. The lieutenants, which occupy the same role, they rubber stamp as well. They don't spend a fraction of what it
Well,
costs.
they don't have official residences in most province. I mean, Elizabeth Dowd's or whoever it is in Ontario now, I mean, just lives where they lived before they were appointed, and that seems to work fine.
Exactly, which gets us, can I shamelessly promote our current campaign?
Go for it.
Gets us to the point of what would you need to be the Governor General? And so we've got these t-shirts. They're at cost. Oh, that's a better one. So that's in front of our Lethbridge, which is the longest trestle train bridge in Canada, which is in North America. In fact, it was on The Last of Us. So if you've seen that weird post-apocalyptic gross zombie movie and there's that burning bridge that's halfway across, that was in Lethbridge and they CGI'd it. So all this is to say, we've got this cool thing going on where you can go to our website, taxpayer.com. We're not making money off of it. It's all just at cost. And you can order t-shirts like this. I would be Governor General for a loonie. So I would skim over, what the Senate...
And I'll even pay the loonie. It won't even go on taxpayer dime there.
For free, really, then. And so
as soon as I told Sean to get that picture, I was thinking, we probably won't even need the picture. She's probably just going to wear the shirt. But anyway.
Well, I'm glad he grabbed the picture because I had to dig this out. The laundry monster is crazy in this house right now. So, yes. So you can get this one for a loonie. I think Franco says I would do it for a poutine, as they pronounce it out here in Western Canada.
Yeah, but you can't get a poutine for a loonie in this economy.
No, you sure can't. It's largely because of the carbon tax. So we're encouraging people. This is why we're doing this, because you either laugh or cry because of everything being so expensive right now. And this is key. Politicians and hoity-toity bureaucrats hate it when you mock them. Like, they get really upset really fast. And so we should mock them a lot. And so the average Joe and Sally six-pack Canadian should go to our website, find this t-shirt, pick the one they like, take a picture of yourself, post it on the interwebs. And this is our way of sticking a thumb in the eye of the elites and saying, you know what? The Governor General should not be paid this kind of crazy amount of money. And they certainly shouldn't be getting an $11,000 raise just this year.
I'll have to whip out it's a dated reference now, but I have one of the old 2000, it would have been 2008, the Stéphane Dion shrug t-shirts that say, do you think it's easy? Well, you can't see my shrug there. Never mind. But it says, do you think it's easy to make priorities? I've got that on a shirt. I'll have to whip that out and we'll do novelty political lore t-shirt day on Casual Friday on the Andrew Lawton
Show. Is a puffin involved in that one? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I have to dig it. It's like way at the bottom of the hamper now because I don't want to, I don't want to actually wear it to, because then it will, lose out the color and the shine. And also I don't want to have to see Stéphane Dion's face every time I look in the mirror. It's bad enough seeing my own face when I look in the mirror. So, all right, Chris Sims, we will see you next Monday.
You betcha.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.